In this video, we're going to talk about the brutal layoff era, and that's the era we're in right now, right? Many people are in survival mode, they're looking for their next job, and we're going to cover it through a few specific clips and examples to really help you through understanding what's going on right now in the job market. Just before we go through this, a bit of background to myself. I've worked in the finance industry for over 10 years, sales and trading, investment banking type of roles. Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, HSBC, successfully applied through many other jobs too and negotiated salaries, job offers, things like that at many other top investment banks and reputable corporations. And I offer career coaching, link in description if you want to speak with me directly. So let's get started with this clip here.
Well, second time in a year, almost a year to the day, I got laid off again, twice in a year. And what is anyone supposed to do? And they said, because of the economy is crap right now, so we're gonna lay off a whole bunch of people again. And I already was struggling so hard, actually low-key, to even keep the current roof over my head. And now I have no idea how I'm even going to get through the next few hours. I just don't understand. The economy is shit. America is shit right now. I feel like there's a really big plan for them to tank this so that we have to rely on other things, other people, and I'm quite frankly tired of it. I'm tired of my livelihood being in other people's hands, and I have no idea how to fix that, but I'm going to, because this is just wild, and I'm fucking angry more than I am hurt or sad. I'm scared. I have no idea where any of my bills are gonna come from, or the money. I'm more angry than anything because I just cannot even believe I used to be able to get a job a week later if I got laid off. So I have no idea what's gonna happen, and I was really hoping at one point I would make money on TikTok, and I still only have 1,500 followers or whatever. So if you could just, I don't know, blow this up and let's get 10,000 followers plus whatever, because I might be homeless in a week or two if I can't figure it out. So I hope everyone is having a great Tuesday, a way better Tuesday than me. And if you have any tricks or whatever to help right now and get me through this, greatly appreciated.
The first thing is I'm going to need one of you guys out here to wife her up and start paying her bills, right? Or follow her on TikTok. And that's the thing, right? She's asking for followers on TikTok to solve her financial dilemma, which is not the right thing. She should be preparing ahead for, again, what is her future career? What skill sets is she developing? The system is setting up most people up to fail, right? And she's had 2 layoffs in 1 year. That's more common than you'd probably think, right? Particularly in the recent economy, the last few years, where there's been, to a certain extent, overhiring and then mass layoffs. Now, the whole point here is that when you're making money, people get comfortable with a certain lifestyle, right? There's a common phrase now that's become more and more popular recently, is that if you have one income source, you're basically in the danger zone, right? Which means if you only have one income source, which is your day job, you lose your job, maybe you have longer term unemployment, 6, 12 months or more, then you're in a really difficult spot. You have to have multiple income sources. That's why if you have a job, your first role for your freedom is to save and invest. So you can prepare for longer term unemployment, major career shifts, even these good tech or finance jobs, you need to make a shift there. People are living under an illusion of, or a delusion of stability. Now, the truth is many jobs, it's arguable, they're not necessarily needed. Many things are getting blamed on AI. Oh, AI taking everyone's jobs. I think over time AI will have a bigger and bigger role, but there are many jobs that are simply unnecessarily office jobs, busy work. And some companies, when they want to cut jobs, they typically cut those. That's something to bear in mind. What work are you doing? What skill set are you developing? Is it in demand in the future, or is it just another busy, pointless office job, right? Because there's another saying out there that the office is daycare for adults. And that's the thing. A lot of people have these pointless jobs and they're not really doing much. They're not particularly skilled, just sending emails back and forth, right? And the thing is, you need to have the samurai mindset, not the family man mindset. Many guys, or even women too, but just addressing men specifically now, they model themselves from the 1950s family man, right? Oh, have a wife and kids and buy a house. That kind of thing is just not realistic. Some people are going to do it. Some people are going to live the traditional 9-to-5 lifestyle and have stable long-term jobs. But for the vast majority, I would say 90% of people, there's going to be incredible economic turmoil in their life. could involve not being able to buy a house, or having to live in a much smaller property, or not having a family, things like that. Those things are way more realistic. And that's why I say, you always, in many videos, you have to have a samurai mindset, which means being disciplined, being a minimalist, being focused on investing, or there's an acronym I have, MIDAS, right, which is minimalist, investor, disciplined, avoiding normie lifestyle decisions, and being a skill developer, developing your own skills. So I'm going to talk through that in a bit of detail. Of course, being a minimalist, there's many fulfilling things you could do that don't involve spending money. And obviously this system is on the basis that you're a consumer, right? It turns you into a worker consumer. You work, you consume. That's what the system has for you. But instead you need extreme discipline, and you need to focus on your financial freedom, right? Hard times have just begun. It's not like, oh, things are going to get turned around next year, or Trump is going to fix the economy and things are just going to get better. There's going to be some marginal benefits, maybe lower tax rates, maybe there's definitely a pushback on the government coercion and tyranny and control of every moment of your lives, which they tried to push in 2020. So it could vary for people in terms of what that solution would be, but you need to work on that solution now. Don't just give up. If you want to give up, you can, but I don't think that's going to actually be the solution you're looking for, right? So again, if you're a minimalist, you can save money. You're not going to buy all those expensive items that you're told to buy, right? For example, many people in the finance industry would waste money buying expensive watches and cars, and some of them told me they regret that. They should have bought property, because that will generate income for themselves, right? Of course, passive income in the sense of investing in real estate, but they wasted it buying cars and watches. And again, the finance industry, in a sense, many jobs are going, and I'm sure some of those people I haven't kept in touch with, I'm sure some of them are regretting those decisions big time. I remember in 2020, during the whole situation that was going on in the world, a friend of a family member, they were getting married, and essentially they spent $10,000, let's just say roughly $10,000 on the catering for their wedding, because they had a massive wedding. And I just remember thinking, well, the inflation rate's about to go crazy, job instability is about to pick up. It was so obvious to me in 2020. They're going to regret that. And many people regret these dumb decisions. That's why you shouldn't get caught up in the crowd. We all have some consumer items we have. Maybe people buy a nice car or a video game console, things like that. I'm not saying you can't purchase anything, but you have to think about what is the long-term goal for you if you're going to be a minimalist until your situation drastically improves and you can engage in discretionary spending. Because if you're a slave, a wage debt slave, and you have one job, you don't really have a lot of flexibility like you think you do, and many people are learning this the hard way now. So being a minimalist, for me personally, I like to spend time in nature, in parks, going to coffee shops. You buy a coffee here and there might be a bit overpriced, but it's not like going to expensive restaurants or nightclubs or bars or buying expensive bottles of champagne. I'm not wasting money on watches and expensive cars, for example. And even if you have other hobbies, a lot of hobbies you can have, fitness hobbies, things like that, that aren't the most expensive. Then being a good investor, these are things I cover through my coaching program. And disciplined, right? Many people are falling victim to vices because they're unhappy in their life. Some people it's smoking excessively, drinking excessive alcohol, things like that, doing other substances. And the other thing is avoiding normie life decisions, right? What do I mean by that? I've mentioned in my videos the acronym avoiding MM or double M, which is avoiding miserable marriages and massive mortgages. I've avoided those decisions. I'm not under pressure like so many people are under pressure in terms of, oh no, they've got to pay off their mortgage, so they're stuck in a dead-end job they hate, right? And the interest rate goes up, for example, and then they're struggling with that, right? Or some people have investment properties that they've bought taking massive mortgages out, and then all of a sudden interest rates go up and they have to sell the property quite quickly. Other point is a skill development, right? So you got to think about what skills will be in demand, right? I've had co-workers who've worked in finance risk management. They learned some coding like Python and things like that, and that's kept them ahead of the curve and led them to have some job stability and favorability from senior management who all of a sudden were looking for those type of skills, and then they kept them on while they fired other team members in a round of layoffs. So the thing is, now this system is setting up most people in life not to have a family, to have some job instability, not to have peace of mind, but you want these things, right? So you have to build a lifestyle that allows for that. And being a minimalist, investor, disciplined, avoiding normie life decisions, and skill development will help you avoid a lot of these deliberate destabilizing forces in your society, in your system that's trying to undermine you, trying to rug pull you, right? Give you a terrible life full of instability and unhappiness, on top of the social dysfunction you're dealing with, right? So these are the type of things to really prepare for.
Just lost access to everything while I was talking to my old coworker about someone else who was impacted by the layoff. So it's just tough out there, but it's surreal. The golden handcuffs are gone.
That's just a very brief clip I wanted to play because this is a woman who was working in her job and all of a sudden she gets informed of a layoff and her access to the company system through her work laptop was immediately stopped, right? So she couldn't log in. And I've dealt with a layoff personally before in the past, and it's quite funny when you try to log in because I wanted to test it during, I had a layoff. They said, oh, there's no need to log in, you don't have access, but I wanted to just try it anyway. So like an hour later, I logged in through my work laptop or my home laptop remotely. I could log into it. And it was blocked. So it's just kind of funny to me how they want you to really value the company and be loyal to the company, but then they cut off your access immediately to that company's system when it comes to, oh, they don't value you anymore. They want you to be loyal to them. They're not loyal to you, right? They want your diehard support. They want you to sacrifice your personal life in the evenings or sometimes the weekends for some of these corporate jobs, but you're ultimately disposable to them, right? And she just mentions at the end briefly, oh, the golden handcuffs are gone, right? And what does she mean by that? That sense that you're stuck to a job you might not like because it pays well, it's gone, right? And then you have this immediate relief. This is one thing about layoffs that people don't talk about, is when you have a layoff, immediately you have a sigh of relief because you have the daily stress of doing whatever job you're doing. But once you lose a job, you do feel, oh, there's no daily pressure, at least for some time, couple weeks or couple months, I won't have that daily pressure of doing work. And it reminds me of one of the career lessons that I teach in my course. I have a course online, link in description, and it's called a career code. And one of the lessons is number 2, leveraging skills beats company loyalty. You must leverage and control perception so that you stay adaptable in a system that rewards politics over performance. Many people just think about being loyal to a company. Are they going to promote me if I work hard? I have many cases of people I work with, myself earlier on in my career, where you're working hard and you're not making that progress. Sometimes people get stuck at the same level for 4 years, right? And then they end up leaving the company because they realize they've been lied to by their management for at least 2, 3, 4 years in their second, third, and fourth year that they're going to get promoted and they don't, and they just have to leave. And they realize they were just being lied to all this time by management who pretended to be friendly towards them. So these are the type of things you need to consider. And if you want to learn more lessons on how to master office politics, the link in the description of my course. So let's continue to go through this with other clips.
I just got laid off about an hour ago. I cried for a while, and I think the hardest part about it is I loved my job, I cared so much, but like knowing that you put your full effort towards something and then feeling like they decided it wasn't enough or it wasn't worth enough. Right now I feel just very like not even undervalued, because I clearly am not valued, but that all of my effort wasn't good enough or it wasn't important or it wasn't relevant. I got laid off today, and it's just, I don't know. And LA is burning and their fires are everywhere, and I got laid off and I don't have a job. Some perspective, it's not that big of a deal. There's other jobs, but it goes so much deeper than not having a job. So I don't know.
So the first thing I'd say is tears are not the answer, boo. This is what you need to understand, right? You need to make sure your identity is not linked to your workplace identity, right? If you feel undervalued by your job, you should realize you're going into the job where they're undervaluing you. You're going into the job where management are having discussions behind your back in meetings where they see you as just an expense item in an Excel file. They see you as disposable, delegating really tedious task to you. Oh, just get this employee to do it, just get Ethan to do it, right? Or just get, her name's Shelby, or just get Shelby to do it, right? They don't really value you. So I think if you're under any illusion that your workplace is there to give you an emotional fulfillment, you're deluding yourself. I think you can get fulfillment through personal fulfillment in terms of achieving career goals and reaching the next level, but realize the company is like it's a cold entity. It's a cold-hearted entity. It's not a real thing. So your career can grow, your personal development can grow, but developing like an emotional attachment to a company, or even in some cases your co-workers, is just not a good idea, right? You want your identity to be linked to your personal goals, not the work, right? And that's the right approach here. Another phrase there would be facts over feelings, right? Companies don't care about your feelings. Don't overwork yourself, and don't work for the attention and validation of your co-workers, that they'll like you the same way she's probably did at work and is now doing on social media. That's not the answer to the issues you're dealing with, right? You need to find fulfillment for yourself and plan over the long term for your freedom, not just your career progress. Your financial freedom and your career progress, those are your goals. It's not keeping the company happy or keeping your manager happy, right? That's what you got to think about. Now, This is an interesting clip. This is a woman who just got informed that she's part of a layoff. She's losing her job. She's discussing it a bit with HR, and then speaks to the camera, speaks to us, the viewer, about her lifestyle situation. I think it's quite interesting because these are some interesting instances to avoid, right? Because you could be trapped like this, right? Which we'll go through here, which would be a job loss, massive mortgage, expensive holiday that you've got planned or you've paid for. These are the type of things you have to be very wary of. You never know when this system can rug pull you and put you in a difficult scenario.
Are there any reasons other than just restructuring? What's the reason for the restructuring?
That's a really good question. It has to do with the company is doing consolidated priorities this year and next year. They are looking to, so the org, it has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with location and everything to do with the company wanting to do less in tech and take on less priorities. And as a result, the team is being reduced for that, to support that.
Another question I had was around my remote status. Is that a factor in this as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It did, to be perfectly honest, it did count, the remote status in general came up as a potential discussion, but it ended up not being a factor. Well, please don't obviously feel a pressure to do anything today other than take care of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm so sorry, Simone. Well, please, again, take today and take care of yourself. And again, I'm really sorry that this is happening.
Thank you. See you on LinkedIn, I guess. I have already cried today. I'll probably cry more. So I got an email an hour ago that said, "Hi, I'd like to get together and share an update on our organization and what this means for you." So I already knew that this was coming. At first, I thought that maybe it wouldn't just impact me because someone else mentioned that they got the same email. And I was like, oh, well, maybe, because this has happened before when they laid off all of our managers. So I was like, well, maybe they're telling all of us at the same time that someone else is getting, someone big at the top is getting laid off. But I reached out to that person and I was like, does your meeting start at 12? And she said, no, my meeting starts at 12:30. So when she said that, that's when I had my breakdown and that's when I started crying. I think the best news out of that is that I'm going to get my bonus. So that will help. I don't know how much the bonus will be because I don't know how well the company performed, but that check will come in March and I'll still get another regular paycheck from work. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I do have savings, thank God, but I don't know what I'm gonna do if it takes months to get a new job because I still want to remain in tech. I still want a remote position, which those are harder to come by now. And I don't know what I'm gonna do if I can't get another job because I have the mortgage now and the mortgage is $2,700 a month. I have my trip planned to New Zealand next month. I should probably cancel that. If I can get a refund on my flight, I should probably cancel that, which sucks because I've been planning that since like time last year. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know.
See, she spends the rest of the video kind of, so I don't want to kind of through that. And like I say, you're in a difficult situation, but it's like crying to strangers on TikTok isn't the answer, right? I understand you want to vent and discuss it, but that's not the right answer. So firstly, it's like she planned a trip to New Zealand and, you know, spent on travel. I've traveled to many different countries, but, you know, roughly that would be an incredibly expensive trip, right, from America to New Zealand in terms of flights, right? It's one of the longest flights that you'd have to experience, and it's not like a cheap holiday, Mexico, for example, right? So it's like, why are you doing this? Did you not think this through, particularly when you made the mistake of having a massive mortgage, right? I don't know her income, but that's a significant mortgage. I think she said $2,700 a month, right? So, you know, if you're trip to New Zealand, it's an expensive flight, bought this new house, right? You're single, you bought a new house, and you went into credit debt to furnish the house, which you can see in the little caption at the top, and then you get laid off. But it's just like, you really have to be extremely cautious. You know what this economy is, how it's currently situated, right? And you know there's lots of layoffs there. You know you work remotely, even more layoffs or some layoffs. It appears that they're pushing for people who are remote workers to come back to the office or they're getting laid off. These are the type of things that really kind of I like have to look out for. And in an earlier video, I mentioned about a layoff I dealt with in the past, and I go through 10 specific red flags that led up to that I could noticed, as things would go course of a year or so, right? And these are the type of things to look out for, right? If you have a mortgage and an expensive holiday, that's just bad financial decisions, right? And then my point is, what ends up, I'm not saying, not making it personal about her, but sometimes you see instances like this, and there'll be a man who will pick up the pieces, right? A boyfriend, a husband will step in. She's single right now, but in the future, I've seen many cases like this in real life. And then he'll take on her burdens, her student loans, her mortgage debt. He'll start financially to her, right? And this is the thing, right? I think she would have benefited from a strong male leader in the form of a husband or a boyfriend, or even a father figure, to protect herself from poor life decisions, right? Which seem quite emotionally driven, right? Did she actually calculate it? Did she think she was really a stable job over the long term? Like, given everything that's been going on in the economy, it doesn't seem like she's making practical, logical decisions. It's mainly driven, particularly booking the holiday. I mean, I don't hear of people booking expensive holidays in this economy. I just think that's just, a smart decision not to. My last holiday personally was back in 2019 when I went to Colombia. And when you have this instability and you have to use ruthless logic and make very practical, tough decisions, you can't be doing things on the basis of emotion and how you feel and what you think you deserve and what you think you're entitled to, or having a sense of privilege or empowerment and all these type of buzzwords. Or your parents' generation could have a massive mansion house, a McMansion, and you don't have it, so you feel entitled. That's going to lead you to making terrible financial decisions that are going to impact you over the long term. Like, if she gets into a lot of more debt because you pay her mortgage, because she's looking for a job and it takes a year, or she has to relocate because she's bought a house and she's trying to work remotely in tech and there's no remote opportunities, and now she has to move to a major city, and then she has to sell this house or rent it out to someone else. It's going to be complete mess for 1 to 2 years at least. So that's why you got to think carefully through these decisions. A couple other interesting points here, right? The job loss was not performance. So that's what I tell you all, not to take your layoff seriously, in the sense that it's not, often it might be because someone doesn't like you in management. It could be because the company's making cuts and it's nothing to do with your personal performance. What's interesting here is some of the instances we hear about in the news is that companies are doing quiet layoffs by forcing people to return to the office. People want to work from home, and then anyone who's still working from home, they just fire them or give them a layoff. And it looks like in this, they weren't bringing that into particular that wasn't a factor that they decided upon to fire her, right? Or to give her a layoff. They didn't say, oh, you're working from home, you're not returning to the office, so we're going to have to lay you off. So that's an interesting nuance there. And the other thing I'd say, there's so many different red flags you could look out for, right? She mentioned some other team members getting informed about potential like layoff meetings, or other people at different management levels could be laid off. This is something that's a red flag. If people around you are leaving suddenly and there's no real explanation, your managers lost their job recently, or they all of a sudden have to leave, which is typically a sign of a layoff that they're just not going to disclose to other employees, you could be next, right? And managers, when you typically get new management levels, they tend to hire their friends as junior employees, so you could be replaced again through no fault of your own. That's why it's so important not to take a layoff personally, because like I say, it's not your fault in many cases. And it's good that she's getting the bonus, right? So that's why, when some people get a bonus in general, let's just say not involving a layoff, and they just spend it on things, right? If you get a bonus, the way I would see it, depending on your personal lifestyle choices, up to you, I would get a bonus and then spend a little bit of it buying what I want or on a certain experience, whatever I want to do, and then save the rest or invest the rest, right? And another point she makes here is around tech and remote jobs, right? Of course, these are harder to find, and this is why people need to be flexible and build a well-rounded skill set. Now, I just want to cover briefly is what's going on is that it's not just you who are dealing with these difficult circumstances, right? Gallup, which is like an industry-leading body that reviews what's going on in the job market, a review every year, a survey in terms of what's going on in terms of employees and employee engagement, all types of things. They interview and collect data over 200,000 employees globally, over 150 countries, and they cover all types of different companies. And what they've identified is there's a very serious problem going on right now in this economy, right? So here we talk, it says that in the global workplace, there's reaching breaking point, right? employee engagement is falling. For the second time in the last 12 years, they see employee engagement falling, which means less employees are engaged at work, right? They say there's a decrease in 21% in terms of employees being engaged at work, right? Less and less employees want to be working. More and more people are unhappy at work. And then there's lots of economic implications of this, right? There's loss of productivity. They estimated $438 billion lost of productivity because employees just are unhappy at work and they're not working as effectively as they previously did. It says what caused the decline in engagement? And first point is a lot of managers are less invested in the work, right? Particularly younger managers below 35 or female managers. I can imagine there could be all sorts of reasons for this, and they've listed some here, inflation, lack of job stability, bust, shrinking budgets, restructuring teams, which would be layoffs, disrupted supply chains, and new employees wanting to work from home and not being comfortable or happy to be in the office. So there's all sorts of reasons, and I'm sure part of the reason is people who would make the step up to management and they realize that life is getting more difficult, or they don't know how to balance that quite well, or manage junior employees, or that their life is not improving, or they're earning more. So there's all types of pressure going on here. So it's kind of interesting, and we've got a few specific quotes that really help explain this. We have someone, Gil, who's a field operations manager. They say, we should have a team of 6 people. There's only 2 of us. I think that's making things very stressful. Then we have someone else who's called Wonsen, and they're a maintenance technician. Since our leaders don't stay long and move to other departments before we can fully get to know them, it's hard to develop trust with our management. And then we have Ryan from America, who's a supervisor. I mean, my team will do any task of them, and I love my guys, but there's no enthusiasm at work anymore. I'm not asking anybody to be jumping around to do lots of extra work, but you just feel that employees are not engaged with their work anymore, right? So people are dealing with more work and less employees, more job hopping, less management engagement, and lack of enthusiasm from workers. And these are the type of that make life quite difficult for management and other employees. At the end of this page, you have a quote. It says, if managers' engagement continues to decline, it won't stop with managers, and it won't stop with engagement. The productivity of the world's workplace is at risk. Now, of course, this is a bit dramatic, but I still think it does make a fair point, right? Managers are less invested in the work. They become disillusioned. It's not just junior employees who are disillusioned due to low pay or they're entitled, Gen Z, whatever the typical narrative would be. This is actually completely counter to that. It's saying managers are just unhappy with the way things are working. And this is a very real reality. And I wanted to point it out to you because otherwise people just feel like, oh, it's just them who are dealing with this, right? It reminds me of earlier videos I've made to cover this trend, which is on HSBC, a major bank. You can search my channel for HSBC, and I talk about how the middle management is kind of done. Lots of middle managers are they're kind of disengaged. They're not needed as middle management. There's too many middle managers, and it's no longer a safe long-term career path, right? And you've got people who thought there'd be a safe middle management employee for the rest of their life. They've got a massive mortgage. They've got their mid-management wife, they've got their boss at home and their boss at work, and they've thought they had this stable life the baby boomers have, but now they're realizing they don't, and they've unfortunately trapped themselves in a situation with debt handcuffing them to their massive mortgage, and one handcuffed to their miserable marriage, and then they've got an anchor around their legs linking them to a job that they don't like. So it's kind of a difficult scenario. They're not planning ahead and really thinking about their future. What's interesting here is what is creating the unhappiness at work. So we have global life evaluation, which is showing a decline, right? Every year, Gallup asks the world's workers how their lives are going. After several years of steady improvement, global employee life evaluation fell to 33% in the last 2 years, which means many people are unhappy in their daily life, right? So it's not going too well for them. Here you can see in the United States and Canada, or also Australia and New Zealand, again, 2 separate parts of the world, both part of the developed economies of the world, but you can see the massive decline in the global living standards, right? Many people are unhappy. The quality of life, housing costs, inflation are making people kind of unhappy with how they're living their lives. Interesting here is that the answer from this company, and again, of course, they're a kind of a employee investigation type of company. They're a workplace, so they're trying to promote their products in a sense. And what they're suggesting here as part of the solution is, oh, we need better management training. Management need more training. And I don't think the answer, I think, is a much more deeper rooted issue of a broken economy, worthless paper money, rather than, oh, just need to train managers more. And I'm sure they're going to get annoyed, because if they have to be trained more, also got the extra workload of having team members due to the layoffs. They've got to manage more work, manage more employees, and they have to do this additional training at work through like online courses and stuff like that. They might get fed up with that. Now, what's interesting here, global summary, they've done a survey. Again, I think they have 200,000 plus employees globally that they interview across many different companies, 50 countries that they've reached out to. So they've got a good overview of what's going on here, right? So we have some important statistics here. It says that 62% of employees are not engaged at work, and 58% are struggling in life in general. So not just work, they're just struggling with life, including work in general. Then you have things like daily emotions. What daily emotions do you feel? 40% of employees feel stress, 20% feel anger, sadness, and loneliness. And then also you have people who are intending to leave, right? 50% of employees are actively looking for their next job. So these are the type of like really shocking statistics when you really look at the daily emotions. It stands out to me, right? 40% are stressed daily, 20% are in anger, sadness, and loneliness each day, right? Very big number, I would say. Now, lastly, we're just going to look at this Gallup report. It says 20% of workers are lonely, right? And I know that might sound like counter to what I normally say, which is like, don't look for emotional fulfillment at work. But I also understand the flip side of that. It's like people don't have communities or even families these days they're close with. So a large part of their emotional fulfillment, they're looking for it at work, particularly because they spend so many hours at work, and it puts them in kind of a difficult position. Here we can hear just an unfortunate life experience as linked with poor mental and physical health outcomes. Another quote says, community building is key to tackling loneliness and fostering a sense of belonging among colleagues. And I think in this case, the real issue here is that they're trying to do is push people to build community around work. Now, you can't really do that because people can't be honest around work colleagues. You might have the wrong opinion and get cancelled. You might say or do something or make a joke and it's inappropriate, and then that ruins your life. So this is the thing. You can't really build community at work. It's kind of a incorrect approach to be taking. Here it says not made in one building, but nor is it a quick exchange of information over Slack. Community is a feeling and a set of relationships that need to be maintained to keep common needs, right? And I think if you want to let people be happier at work, you can give them more flexibility, which would be let them work from home so they can be around their community if they want, or have more time in the evening so you can let people leave the office on time or early so they can spend their evenings around people they feel comfortable with. They're not at work where there's cancel culture, blame culture, or a constant anxiety of a layoff. They can be themselves outside of work, maybe spending their evenings with their friends in the gym or hanging around wherever they want to do, coffee shops, pubs, wherever that would be, right? What ends up happening is in these corporate environments it doesn't become about the productivity, it becomes about behavior in a very coercive way. So it's like, how can you form community in a genuine way when it's like, oh, you have to build community at work, but in reality you kind of need to befriend people who are going to benefit you can't really build a genuine connection as much as you can outside of work, where it's not dependent on who can really help me move forward in this environment, right? The thing is, they want to kind of dictate not only the way you behave in the environment, but your personal life choices, your political opinions, even your time outside of work. I'll give you some funny examples there. I remember my manager having a go at me because I wasn't attending work drinks after work as often as other employees, just because I didn't have much in common. And here it says, empower managers to act as cultural champions. Equip your manager with the skills required to bolster team cohesion, well-being, and encourage pro-social behavior amongst employees, right? Pro-social behaviors are voluntary acts aimed at benefiting others. Appreciation, interest, inclusion, kindness. These are known to reduce feelings of disconnection and, more importantly, help build trust, which is a cornerstone of strong relationships. Now, again, this is kind of the feminized, weak, soft workplace environment. I don't think this really works, right? I think what people want is respect, self-respect to be maintained, direct communication, honest reality. We're working to complete a project, not necessarily emotional environment. And these type of things can build more trust. People are focused on the reality of the work they're doing and not this fake, nice, thinly veiled passive aggressiveness just to pretend the workplace is nice. It's like high school girls, like that's the type of dynamic. Courage with this attitude of cultural champions of things like it's just bogus. And just to build upon that, right, it says here, We need to allow space and time for employees to be curious about each other's lives and find common ground. We need our brain to give a shot of the love hormone at work, oxytocin, where we've shared an experience with others. And this is why I'm here. Yeah, this is why I'm listen to these Becky Normans, early life check. But the point is, these type of people, workplace environment where you spend the majority of your time, they're telling you to listen to a behavioral expert who tells you you need to have the love hormone oxytocin at work, to have a shared interest with other workers, and this is the hormone accompanied by feelings of affection and deepening relationship bond. This is the ridiculousness of having these type of environments, right? It's like you don't want people to be curious about your life because you might say or do something that they feel doesn't fit in with a liberal feminist worldview. God forbid, maybe you're a husband and your wife mother, stay-at-home wife, housewife. They might feel like you're oppressing her and patriarchal, and then they might take one little comment you make as misogynist and say you have a misogynist type of attitude on your personal life, on the way you behave at work, it's patriarchal or whatever. This is the type of ridiculous thing, right? These women, I'm not saying it's all women, but I'm saying a significant demographic of liberal men, feminist women, whatever you want to talk about, they've changed the workplace environment to everything apart from work: kindness, inclusion, love hormone. What are we talking about here? This is a workplace environment. This isn't a community. This isn't your family, right? You can be decent and respectful with people, but we're not building these close lifelong bonds, right? This is kind of crazy, right? If people ask you about your personal life, they typically gossip about it. And yeah, again, like this is about the feminization of the workplace, right? It's not an environment that men want to be in. We just want to work and go home. I always think about how the tech departments work, how men typically work in the military, in other roles where it's more technically based. They're more based on just maybe being traders. They focus on their technical analysis, discuss it with others. Maybe there's a few jokes, there's a bit of banter. They get the work done and they go home to their families, to their wives, their girlfriends, whatever, their friends, right? But they don't turn the workplace into, oh, I really care about everyone's feelings and their personal life. These are the type of ridiculous things you have to deal with. Anyway, I hope you've learned from that. I'm someone who will give you genuine career advice, not something that's ridiculous as this. I mean, this person works for HR Zone, be a HR expert and a recruitment expert, but listen, these people are the reason why I'm here, basically, right? I have 10 plus years in the finance industry, working at Goldman's, Morgan Stanley, and HSBC. Intern level, analyst level, and director level, climbing the corporate ranks, having successful job interviews at major corporations like JP Morgan, Citi, Deutsche Bank, and so on. And I offer genuine career advice. It's actually helpful. I have career coaching. I can help you secure a promotion faster, land your dream career through my coaching programs, link in description. Also, I have a course that I cover some of these key lessons to navigate office politics. There is also a link in description to the Mailbox Money newsletter. Now, twice a week, Monday and Friday, you will get emails sent directly to your inbox with actual useful career advice that's going to help you to push forward and survive through these difficult times. So I hope you found that helpful. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this layoff era we're living through. Hope you're staying strong, and 2 recommended videos on your screen right now. I'll see you next time.